rolling?
We're live.
Okay. All right, so let's just start with the... All right, today's August 2nd Finance Committee meeting starting at 7:02 p.m. Frank Seminaro, Kevin McCullough, Dr. Otto, Andrew Basil, Danielle Penza, Julie, and Monica Hamill are all here. So let's get started. Financial impact of administrative reorganization. So Dr. Otto and Danielle had provided to us reorganization charts as well as financial impact of those things. And then they just recently handed out this sheet here, which hopefully makes it a little bit more clear as to what is going on. I think this is helpful in terms of, there's members of the public have been sending emails. I've received an email from members of the DBTA, and Dr. Otto was copied on that, asking, there is some confusion as to whether or not this was adding costs to the school district while we were, cutting programs or cutting costs in other areas. And obviously Connor also received an email with someone questioning what was going on at the administrative level and why we were doing what we were doing. So,
if I can add, I was actually contacted by the Reading Eagle back right after we talked about it, and they asked some questions, and I just said we're talking about it at the board level, so I wasn't really ready to give them a response yet either.
Right. So I guess the idea here is to come out with something that's nice and simple and sweet that's going to explain what we're doing administratively and what the new positions are and how it's changed our organizational structure and what the net is to the school district in terms of overall cost. And I think this explains it a lot better than the combination of the spreadsheet and the org charts from before.
Well, the org charts, I think they came as a request, I think, from you, Mr. Basil, to do that. We're actually glad we made those, even though they might be confusing to the public. It's probably important that we have an org chart. As I had discussed with you prior, I think at some point we really ought to get an org chart from a personnel standpoint, not a financial one, to put out on the website so that people understand, where the board is in the pecking order. And I had said to Mrs. Penza today, I said, Exeter has one. They hadn't had one up there, and I would like to copy that one in terms of format, not obviously in content because they have different personnel. But that aside, I do think we took a look at the two that showed the net savings and then the one that just showed all the administrative salaries. This, I think, is the easiest format that I could visualize that could turn into a web page, that could actually turn into an attachment for you guys to ratify once we go public on August 13th with what this whole plan is. It has on the left side, let me just finish, the personnel adjustments and then the net financial impact. Now, obviously, this won't go out until everybody's happy with it, but it can certainly be changed. It's just a piece of paper at this point, but I think it captures everything that we've done.
Can I make a small suggestion? Can we put somewhere in there that anything that Anne Marie does forward is not paid through regular, because they're going to see her around. She's still a consultant. Someone's going to say, well, you don't have her consulting fees.
Yeah, I don't have a, do you want that on this?
No, I don't know.
Or just mentioned somewhere?
The money's coming out of Access, right?
I
or
think
grants.
She has it out of a grant.
Grants. You might want to footnote that somewhere because someone's going to say, this is true, but where's Mrs. Trainer's pay? Mm-hmm. Somebody might realize she's still working because a consultant somewhere. And again, it's just a suggestion. I don't really care. I think this is okay. But someone might say, well, she is a consultant yet. You didn't factor her money into this. So your true net savings is even less. But in reality, it's not because, it's coming out of grant money. It's just a suggestion. I'm fine with this, but
I actually went through
trying to get rid of another.
Line by line. I matched up everything from both flow charts according to all the information I had from previous meetings, and matched up everything, and I didn't see the savings in this whole flow chart. So I wanted to know where exactly the savings has come from, because I took like an hour and a half I took it from all the salaries, I took it from everything, and I don't see where the $20,000 is.
All right, so we can walk through it right now. So
okay.
So you can understand.
I want to see, because where it came from, I don't quite. I think what throws me off a little bit is Anne Marie, her price on the new sheet. That's with benefits.
Mm-hmm. Every number you see now, this is consistent now. All of these numbers, you might have some numbers there that don't represent benefits. because that flow chart was salaries.
Right, okay.
This is all apples to apples, salaries and benefits for every person that's on this sheet.
Okay, that must be the difference right away with the top one then.
Well, that's why we don't think that sheet is going to serve our best interest. Because
And we didn't originally, even when we produced it, we knew
Right.
that by those two sheets, the comparison was going to show you not a savings, which is then why Dr. Otto sent out that other sheet
With the
after that.
savings.
Right. And
But you
they
can't
weren't really-
cross-reference those charts, Monica. It doesn't
Right.
make sense
Yeah,
to
that's why I did.
cross-reference
Well, no, I
them.
wasn't cross-referencing from here to here. I was cross-referencing it from past information
But
on
again,
salaries.
some of
And
that's old information, some of it doesn't
it was
benefit.
from,
This,
it all matched up. It matched
Yeah.
up from this to here, and I
but
just-
there's no fuzzy math here. I can guarantee you that.
No, I think the biggest difference is Anne Marie's.
Because we're only going to be paying 2 months instead of 12 months of medical, dental, vision, so I took that out. Then you have her Social Security and retirement that comes out, based off of what salary she's not getting, and those. So that's
this is a more accurate, her figure on this form is more accurate
It's
than
exact.
what was originally on here. Is
Yeah,
exact.
yes.
well,
Okay,
that
and then-
is just representative in your right hand of salary. The sheet that you have behind all of those, it's the same 150 that you see now on the sheet that Dr. Otto has, where you see the salary piece and then the benefit piece.
Now, Mrs. Torsia, the figure on this sheet, is that the increase of pay?
Pay and benefits.
Pay and benefits, okay.
Everything's paying benefits.
See, we were already
It
in,
says everything at the bottom.
Monica, we were already in X for her. So all you factor into this equation is what she's making above and beyond what she would have been making anyway.
Okay.
So that's why that figure's there like
I
that.
see the one figure that, because they were different from one sheet to the next, so I was figuring, but I went through every line item and did it, and I didn't see it, but now I do with this figure.
Okay, so do you want me to walk through this?
Nah.
Okay.
It was full of Tim principal.
No.
The only thing I would add to this in terms of what's on the left-hand side, the positions that these people had beforehand. So it says Mrs. Torcha moves from AIC. Moves from what? She was the principal, right? So I would just add what they were to what they're going to be. I mean, you do it on the second half of the sentence. So Mrs. Massaro remains APC principal and assumes AIC principal to replace Mrs. Torcha. So she's going to be a principal of both.
Correct.
Mrs. Long, I don't know what Mrs. Long did before.
She was a, if you look, you have to read all the way through the chart to find out what she did. If you look down here,
She was
Mrs.
a third
Clark.
grade position. Yeah, I
Right.
mean, I would just make it redundant, third grade position or whatever.
that's fine.
Teacher.
I mean, it's just words.
So that when that way when you're reading it, you say, oh, all right, I see. I can start to connect the dots. Mr. Hurley, whoever, he was the assistant principal at the middle school.
Danielle, the one question, if Rex Rhodes replacing Rebco, and he went from 12 months, she went down to 10, it's only $1,200 bucks?
Well,
'Cause-
she's in as a teacher salary.
And
So
then we
the
just paid her
difference-
per diem because of the way we rewrote the job description.
She got
Created a
her,
new position.
what I was told that her, to
Yeah.
use for her salary.
No, that's correct.
No, I'm
Well,
not questioning
Repco
that.
is keeping his job.
Yeah, I
the
got that.
same.
I got that. So but her salary would be, basically, we just look at.
Well, hers is a cost.
Gotcha. Okay,
That's a
forget
cost, not a savings.
it. My mistake. I know what you did. Okay.
Got it?
Yeah,
Okay.
my mistake.
So anybody else, any other questions about this?
How would you like me to proceed with this
Well,
document?
I guess what I'm thinking is if you just sort of add what the titles were.
Yeah, I can do all
versus
that. I'll
what they
clean that up
are.
and give it back to
And
everybody.
then I think when you put this out to the public, you put it out there with the new organization chart.
But I'd like to pull that new org chart.
Yeah.
That chart, though, I think we ought to pull the salaries from. so
You can
it
pull.
doesn't-
I don't care if you leave the salaries on there or not, but at least that way,
We have to change.
well, if you take the salaries out and you just have the new org chart, then somebody can sit there and say, oh, okay, nice. I can look at this and I can see where the new people
Given
are.
the confusion that it caused here, I would prefer to pull those salaries off of the org
And maybe
chart.
you just, I don't know. Yeah, that's fine.
That
As
org
long as
chart
it-
now does not have the teachers reflected on it because it's an admin org chart.
I think you just put a couple asterisks at the bottom over there, and like over here on the left or something, you say, you know, third grade teacher moves to, you know, high school principal spot or whatever it
No, I
is, and
just wrote the
second grade
names
teacher
on them.
moves to.
They can figure
Yeah.
it out from there. You just put the names.
We can just
They
put,
have to know where
we'll
they
figure
came
some
from?
graphic to put on there.
Just, I mean, you can put the title and the name
Right.
on there when you put this out. That way I can look at it and say, oh, okay, well, Miss Rex Road asterisk was a teacher, now she's
Right. Assistant principal.
10-month high school assistant principal.
Right.
I see
That's
it.
fine.
That way, it's John Q. Public understands what's happened, and
When do you want this published? Do you want to see the whole board to see it on a board update
yeah,
first?
I think the whole board should see it in a board update or the committee of the whole meeting, so they can
Well,
comment on it. And
But
then,
just, that would mean we'd wait another week before we post this
no,
publicly.
get it out in the board update.
Okay.
There's no reason to hold back on this
Okay.
stuff.
And the public chomping that bad.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I just let it go for another week.
Okay. We'll talk about it at the,
Can't imagine it's a big party.
I think you put it out in the board update. Board can review it. They have
Okay.
questions, they can call you, and then we get to the committee of the whole. We can talk
Okay.
about it.
all right,
If there's
I'll
anything to
clean
talk
up the
about.
wording on the right hand, on the left column.
Let's see here. Okay, so moving on to the 12-13 budget update.
I'll turn that over to Danielle.
So Danielle had sent to all of us the worksheet that we had been using, and added, I guess here in purple, all the changes
Those were the changes that would have occurred after
after
you
we
would have
voted on
approved
it.
the budget, which
Mhm.
normally happens anyway, but my understanding is that the committee may want to be recommending to the entire board to reopen the budget and resubmit with the accountability dollars in there, along with the savings of this $20,000 for the admin reorg.
Right.
So you see the savings there from what was originally budgeted for Dr. Otto and myself, the
Mhm.
savings for the admin reorg plan.
Mm-hmm.
The next two were given to me by Mrs. Trainer. Those were monies that she had budgeted because of the No Child Left Behind law. And if we didn't get the accountability, she needed money in there to run the programs. And then the total increase there of the ABG expenses, which is the same amount of revenue for the grant. And then I did add
So she did get the grant?
for ABG, we did get the grant, yes.
Okay, so we were able to take those monies out. And,
We were able to take out 35,000,
okay, because she got the grant.
correct.
Okay.
And then I obviously was able to put that back in, so.
Increase to accountable, okay.
Overall, from what was originally approved in June, the expenditures are up $90,095. If you take those,
Yep.
there. The revenues from what was approved in June is up $154,456.
Mm-hmm.
And the fund balance appropriation is actually down by $64,361.
Okay. A couple questions. My thought process of reopening the budget and putting these numbers in would just be so that we're benchmarking when we actually start measuring actual costs to expenditures. We're benchmarking at least to what we projected we were going to do, as opposed to having to always guess as to what was it again? We changed the numbers, and so what's the real difference, as opposed to actually benchmarking to what we actually projected we're going to do. I think that also is going to impact the audit at the end of the day for next year that the public gets to take a look at. What are there any other additional costs that we might incur by reopening the budget? We don't need Subers or anybody like
Well,
that.
I've been in contact with Subers. I had to contact Subers according to the state to find out what the law was in order to reopen. So there is time already spent with that, and I've been communicating back and forth with him. We do have to advertise 10 days prior to the action that the board would take. So if the board is going to recommend to do this, I would need to advertise by the 17th. So there will be a cost for advertising.
Okay.
And then just administrative, like postage and whatnot, to send the reports and signatures and basically the whole process over again.
Yeah, but do we, okay, reopening the budget would be, that's all the paperwork filed with the state. Why do we need, I agree with what you're saying, but do we really need to change that paperwork, just change the internal paperwork, the working documents? You know what I mean?
Working documents, yes, but system, no.
What do you mean?
So working documents would be, when I'm working on projections, I'm using actual expenses from the system, but in my projections, I would put in, okay, I had budgeted
Correct,
0
correct.
for ABG, but I know
Correct.
for projections, I'm getting 154.
Correct.
That's what I have been doing
Correct.
all the years.
But for you to go in and change it in the actual budget,
Then I have, that's why I have to
you
send
won't
it
have
to
to do
the
that, but then you're going to have to do there's a lot of work to do that for a couple line items.
Yes.
And there's costs. And then we have to advertise, we have to go back, we have to vote on it. Now, again, do we have to let it sit out in the public for 30
No,
days?
according to Brian,
10 days.
the only stipulation I
No,
had
you
to
have to
do,
postpone
no,
it
was
then.
just to advertise that you
Advertise
were
10
going to
days.
vote or vote to reopen it.
Okay.
So by the end of August, you could vote it again.
Okay, but my question is, no one's done this.
No, no one has done it.
So do you think it will cause more controversy if we open up a budget again?
I think it shows fiscal responsibility by doing that.
Kind of, yes and no, but I also think it's going to be, everybody knows that the final numbers are going to be the audited numbers,
The actual.
the actual audited numbers. If you do it now and now that, you don't have them yet. Right? You won't have the audit till October.
Oh, you probably, the board.
So my
won't.
question is, are you going to go back and do it again? In other words, you open it up now, do it in August, we get an audit, they change something, I don't know, $50,000, $100,000 on one line item. Are we going to open it up again?
That's from last year, though. We're talking about this coming year, this year that we're in, right?
No, no, I thought you were going to open up.
No,
Are you
you're opening up
this
12, 13.
Can't you
Opening
just
up-
make them line item changes without opening up the budget again?
On my internal
Yeah.
documents that
Yeah.
I do, but for reports that you would get out of the system and
but
whatnot,
okay,
and the
but-
actual approved
But
budget, no.
most of the things we work off of your internal documents, not what comes off the system, correct? I'm just saying to you. I mean, most of us
Most
work
of
off,
it is
most
I'm
of us works off
taking-
what you give us in Excel spreadsheets.
Which I'm taking out of the system and then
Correct,
putting
but you
it
can,
in
but you
a format.
can note in
Yes.
your own internally that
Which I
there's 6
do.
things that I need to change every time I put it out to the board. I understand what Andrew you're saying. I don't see the real relevant nature of it. I think you're going through a lot of work for what? How many, 6 items, 7?
Well, how much work is she doing every time she generates a
Yeah, but you
report
got to
out to the
also,
public?
dude,
or
you
to
should
this board?
change 6 numbers.
Well,
Now
that's
you
all
got to
she-
open up the budget. You got to advertise.
That, we advertise for every meeting.
Whatever.
You're
I
advertising for
personally-
the meeting anyways, right? You're advertising for the voting meeting anyways. All you're doing is you're just adding a few extra words in there.
I personally, again, I'm not being. I don't really see it necessary. But if you guys want to do it, that's fine.
Well, the board ultimately is the one's going to decide.
Sure, I agree with that. I'm just saying to you.
Right, that, the one that you have would be
Right.
null and void, and there would be a new one that's
Correct, you'd have
redone.
So
reflecting
for the
all
record, it
changes.
would look like you used less fund balance.
Correct.
Or
Correct.
you're looking to use less funds.
Correct.
Excuse me, yes. That would be your,
Correct.
because a
So
budget
if we
is a
don't-
projection.
But no one-
The
but-
public won't know what we did because it would be more internal.
No, the public. Would get
No, you
that-
have,
that
no,
would
you're
create
gonna,
that new
you're gonna,
document.
public
So
will
now
see that
anybody who
again.
printed that off and doesn't know we reopen up the budget, and they come into a meeting next spring, that document's no good.
Right.
Okay.
Which we would have to do a little
Which we have to
advertising
do an
campaign to
advertising and
say,
saying this is the new paperwork again. That's why I said, is it
it's the
worth?
budget as voted August
And what's the
27th.
net effect? How much is the net effect on fund balance?
$64,000.
See, I think, I mean, if it was, sorry to say this, if it was 750,000, I would say open the budget. When you're talking $65,000 on a $50 million budget, you know what? That's, thank God there's no, that's, forget it, we're being recorded. We're being recorded, I caught myself. But you know what I mean, to me, that's, what do you call it, an allowable discretion, I'll put it that way. But if it was $640,000, I would probably say, that's a mill. I would say open it. That's my opinion, again, and I don't have final say, obviously, like Andrew said, it's the board. I just think for $64,000, you're doing a lot of work. Actually, I wish we would have thought about that last year. After October, we should have
So will
opened
be
it.
one of the biggest changes on here, would it be this first line here, the budget expenditure, the
Right,
fund
your budget
balance,
expenditure
it
on,
would show a different percentage.
your budget expenditure on there should be 50,686,059. That would change to 50,776,154.
Okay.
And then the percentage.
And then internally, we wind up changing the categories per the things that you see reflected on this sheet.
Correct.
But these numbers that you see here could be, like the admin reorg number for the 20,000, it's like 5 sheets of entries, which, I mean, I mean, there is time.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying don't do it because of that, but just because you see one line item internally for us, there's a lot of entering
Right,
to
there's
do.
a lot. Sure.
Yep.
So do we have concurrence that we at least go to the board and ask them their opinion on this? Where do we stand?
You have to anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to.
I mean, you have to, well, no, not let you kill it.
I mean, we could say as a committee, we don't want to do it. I mean, I'm in favor of doing it. I just think it's getting your fiscal house in order, and I think when it comes down to taking a look at these individual line items when we're talking about the budget going forward, it's helpful to know what we're benchmarking against. I hear what you're saying. For $60,000, it seems like a lot of work, but
Again,
I don't.
and I'm not trying to argue, that's just my personal opinion. Like I said, $640,000, I think, yeah, absolutely. Especially when we're talking about fund balance and mills and blah, blah, blah. $64,000. It's a lot of money, trust me, but not in the scheme of things. Anyway, whatever.
So how shall I report this to
I don't know,
the
I'm
rest
waiting
of the
for the
board
other
in my
two.
board
Yeah,
update?
I'm thinking of the government. I mean, does it matter with the government? I mean, when
No.
They won't care if you open it
They
or
don't care
not.
about it.
They don't
No,
care.
No, I
care.
checked with PDE. I mean, he said, the gentleman that's kind of the head up there said it's out there. We don't have any direction for you. You need to go to your solicitor, which is why I did go to Brian Subers. I did go to our auditor. And even Brian, they don't know of anyone that's reopening it. And we all got the accountability.
I'm sorry, without getting through it,
Okay.
can I ask one question? Can you find out, did anybody ever do it? And two, does it mess up the records at PDE? Because now you have submitted
Well,
two budgets.
no, because when I talked to
Do they
him, he
destroy
said
the
I
first
need
one?
to make sure that I send him all the new documentation.
Yeah, but do they destroy them or do they float around and they're out there? Well, wait, Daniel.
Well, we
Briggs
wouldn't have no
submitted
way
two
of
them.
knowing that.
I know, that's what I'm
answer
asking.
that.
I don't want to create a controversy with PDE because now we have two budgets for the same year.
No, I'm sure they would, we'd have to
Well, that's what I'm
file,
asking. How does
we'd have to file a formal motion with them that,
talk to the rest of the board? Something to drink.
No, thanks. I'm good.
Anybody want anything to drink?
No, thanks.
we were asked that question earlier.
I was just curious what the biggest benefit to reopening it. I mean, what is the biggest benefit? Just
Well, the biggest benefit is having one set of numbers and not having two sets of numbers floating around that you may have gotten toward the end of our budget cycle this year. And maybe you're storing them and you keep referencing them back come January, February, March, when we're heavy into it, you're referencing the wrong set of numbers because there are some minor differences there. And if you can't account for those differences, I don't know, maybe Danielle, gets hit by a bus or something, and we forget about those 6 items, and now we question the whole process, because numbers are numbers, and if the numbers aren't adding up, now we're questioning, well, is something wrong, what else could be wrong, why is it wrong? It's just keeping things in order.
then I
One
think
set
we
of
should
numbers.
open it. I think we have to have the same set, like, not that I want you to get hit by a bus, but it would be important if you left and we had to use the numbers. Like, I have the old one.
Well, I mean, one of the obvious things to me is, I mean, the whole conversation toward the very end of the budget cycle may have gone a little smoother for us, if we were able to reference back on some of these things that happen after, after the budget gets approved. We were pretty close to considering, raising taxes, and we would have looked like a bunch of fools doing that right now, because we didn't have to do it.
Right.
But just to know, inevitably every year, and even after this is reopened, we're still going to have changes that are coming forward from people leaving, people. I mean, I
Yeah.
could be changing this every day with all
Yeah,
the changes that
yeah.
are going on. So just because we do open it and change it, there's still going to be things that I have to be carrying.
Right, yeah, I understand.
All right,
Well,
so is the
it'll be on the
recommendation to take it to the board?
How big of an effort is it, Danielle, for you to do the entries that you have to do and get the paperwork out the door?
If that's what the board wants, that's just another part of the day.
See, the other thing that I got a weird thing about is when we voted on this, the reorganization thing wasn't even discussed at the time. It was, but it wasn't finalized. So you're changing something after the fact.
ABG is the same theory.
Yeah, I'm just saying to you. Because you didn't know that when we voted on June 26th. If you didn't change anything except actual stuff we voted on because of whatever, that's one thing. But we're changing stuff that we voted on that we didn't know what it was. We didn't know what the reorganization was going to change, so we didn't know the other thing was going to change. So
All the more reason to do this.
Yeah, but I think that's people will be doing that. I don't know. I just think you're giving a hard deadline. We voted on what the knowledge we knew.
Okay. I don't
that's
think anybody's
cool.
questioning that, but I think at the same time,
Yeah, I agree.
I
That's a question.
I
But
think
what happens if you find out 6 months from now? Are you going to do it again?
6 months from now, find out what?
I don't know. Find out something else in 6 months. After the auditors come in and you find out something, and I don't know.
Those are the typical variances that you track during the course of the year, right, on a budget. These are things that it just in the course of timing.
But I think one
Well,
thing
the
that
same thing, just to
okay,
go back
okay.
a year,
Just
for
say-
11-12, we did not know that ABG was approved. There was zero budgeted in 11-12 for ABG. The same scenario that's happened this year, happened last year. We didn't reopen last year.
Well, we didn't have that option last
Okay,
year.
We did.
what happens if
As
we did?
Brian said, we've always had that option.
Okay, well, that's never been broadcast to the board.
no, but you know what happened this year? PDE made it a point to say you may want.
It was in all the documents. from
This is the
them.
first year they suggested to boards to do it.
What
But in
happens-
Brian's,
Okay, I have a question. In 3 weeks, what happens if we lose an administrator and we decide not to replace him?
well, see here,
And
I
it
have to
saves us
caution-
$130,000.
Okay,
but I
but
have to
our
caution you on that because this reopening is specifically for state and federal allocations.
Okay. Now, then, okay.
He said the law is very, he said I should be okay doing the admin reorg here, but it's really for state
Great.
and
Okay.
federal appropriation.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's
Well, the reason you're opening it is because you have something like that, but you can include any changes at
No,
that time.
no, that's not
No.
what you're saying.
Wow.
That's exactly
That's a
what
great
she
area.
said.
In other
To be quite
in other words,
honest with
find
you-
out-
Yeah, I would say don't do it.
Because
Yeah, in other words, if state gives us another whatever.
you're just not going to have the real budget. You still got a piece of paper off the side of your desk after it's sold.
Yeah, but okay, so that's different. So in other words, this reorg thing is kind of a gray area.
a little.
Okay.
He said I should be okay. I mean, those were his words, that he thinks I should still be okay. It's just, he says it's very, there's just not much documentation
There's no
out
precedent.
there.
There's no precedent law.
I'd say you throw it in PD's lap and let them deal with this. I mean, at the end of the day, this is Harrisburg's issue of getting this stuff to us after the fact. And if we're going to let the state do this to us every single year, then why not throw it back at the state and let them deal with the issue? I mean, maybe they'll
think
start
they'll-
passing their budgets by June 15th as opposed to June 30th.
To be quite honest with you, I actually even emailed Brian because I have budget transfers. I know people are sending requisitions in and they're not having the right account numbers, and I'm telling them they need to change it. Of course, the money wasn't budgeted, so they submitted transfers. I can't submit them to the board for the first 90 days according to school code, but I thought to myself, well, we're reopening the budget. To Andrew's point, why don't I do them now with this reopen so we're...
Try.
Brian said no.
Can't, right?
See, so you're still not getting a true picture there.
So PDE will let you open the budget because they're
I mean, that was the advice from him. He said that no, and that's why then I resent him an email saying, well, am I still okay including the admin reorg piece with the ABG? And he said,
So in
you
other
should
words,
be
even
okay.
if we do this, it's still not true.
Oh,
100%
no,
true.
it's not. I have a stack in my
See,
office.
whatever. Okay,
You have a
we
stack
killed
in
this
your
topic for
office
a half hour, I
of
think.
requests for transfer.
Right, where people submitted printing for, I don't know, envelopes or something, and they were charging it to a 610. Well, it's not a 610, it's a 550. And they didn't budget in 550. So I made them, it comes through as suspended, and then I don't let it release until I have a transfer, knowing that they have money somewhere to cover it. If they don't, then it's not
Why did
gonna
they
be
put it under what's 610?
supplies,
Supplies.
And what's 550?
printing and binding. It's semantics, but that's my job. I mean, that's what the accounting manual says.
$64,000. Let it go.
And it's like that with a lot of things that we've gotten through. That's what I mean. I've tried. It's 3 years that I've been here, and I still can't get them.
Correct.
I mean,
Would you like to see it reopened, and are you?
honestly,
care?
in the
Does it care less
beginning,
either way?
no. Honestly, in the beginning, I didn't know how to do it, so I was a little cautious. It doesn't matter to me either way. Personally, I don't think I would, just because from my surrounding fellow business managers, no one else is doing it. Not that that's the right reason to not do it, but normally I get a good read off of everyone else, and if
I'm
the
sure
county is doing it or other...
I'm sure other people do have these discrepancies.
We all got ABG funding.
But that's what I'm saying. They all got something little. Everybody tweaks.
Well, this isn't little. This is $150,000.
Yeah, that part, but the other stuff, net is 64.
That's
Is that
because-
is that the sole reason why PDE is recommending that? school
Yes.
districts
Because
do
of the
this? Just because
ABG
of that?
money.
Because they delayed their decision on, they got a lot of political pressure to, with the infighting on the budget at the state level to help schools. Their way of helping schools was, because it looked like the ABG money was dead and gone. And then they resurrected it and gave it. They gave ABG money and they gave this pot of money to distressed school districts after the fact. We didn't get that money because we're not in that category like a Reading and a Chester
Now,
and those
I
other
think
places.
to that, Frank, if I was one of those school districts getting that influx of money, then most definitely, because I could probably bring staff back, program back.
Yeah, Reading was able to reinstitute their whole pre-K program, so I'm sure they're going to probably I don't know if they're reopening their budget or not. I could find that out.
Well, they got a new superintendent too. They might be going through a big transition right now. Whatever.
I honestly
Ask
care.
the question.
I really don't.
Let's move on to the
think
topic.
if PDE would like to see us do it and it's.
No, they didn't say that. They said
Oh,
if
okay.
you wanted to.
It's your option.
It was your option. They didn't really come out with a strong recommendation
And
to
since
say
they
go ahead and
don't
do
have
it.
any guide, because I had emailed Ben, who is the person up there, and I asked him for guidance, and he emailed me back and said, I'm not really sure what guidance you're really talking about.
As the old
you know.
saying goes, PDE doesn't have a dog in our local fight.
Yeah.
They really don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I totally see Andrew's point.
I'll bet you if Daniel Boone opened theirs up, you'd see a dozen other school districts reopen theirs. I'll bet you. Dollars to donuts. That's the way these school districts work.
Yeah, they follow suit, for sure. But I'm actually okay with it either way, to be honest with you, since it,
Put it out there as the board.
Yeah, that's what to do.
I mean,
That's what I'll represent in the
I think since if we're going to be
board update.
the first people, let's get the whole board.
can-
You have to anyway, but you might as well let them
Will
discuss
you
it.
include the attachment too then?
Suber's letter.
No, this spreadsheet.
Yes.
Yeah. I think right after this meeting, just send this out to the whole board, this updated worksheet.
So you want Dr. Otto to do it with his board update tomorrow?
I don't, yeah. I mean,
I'll
you
do
can
everything tomorrow morning.
the only reason I'm hesitating, just to put a final comment at the end of this, is the comment you made, that Suber's made to you about you should be okay. I always have this fear that you try to do something nice and you end up screwing yourself over. Jen?
You know,
Doesn't that always happen?
I think
See,
the
I got-
issue is, my understanding when I talked to him was, there's no guidance, right? So you do what you want, and if somebody at PD is paying attention, they might come back and say, well, wait a minute, what's this administrative change?
wait for the Hawks to
Should you
circle.
change that or whatever, and whatever?
Yes,
And you can turn around and say, well, not changing it. And I said, well, what if you just tell them we're not changing it? He'd probably tell you just go ahead and move forward
Lawyers
with
are
it.
covered.
So
See why.
I think it's just one of those things where
That's why
he can't give you a definitive answer.
His email says, as discussed, there's very little guidance on the subject. I think you would be okay.
Yeah,
That was
so-
that was the
That's from a lawyer.
When I talked to him, though, that's what he said. He said, Andrew, you guys should be fine.
That's
You should
what
be
he
okay. Not like, it might be, because I saw his email and I was like, well, what does that mean? You know, is that lawyer speak? And it's the same thing you talk with a lawyer. I can't guarantee you a win at trial. I feel
But-
confident that we're going to get there. You
But
know?
I'm okay with that.
There's always the but.
It's like we used to say in special ed, Frank.
For another hour.
In special
Yeah,
ed, we used to say,
You're not going to get a definitive answer out
right,
of
we
it.
used to say in special ed, no good deed goes
Of
unpunished.
course, that's what
Well,
my fear is.
we just added on to our committee a whole meeting for a half hour.
All right, multi-year budget. So you provided us this company, PFM.
Yes, I had listened to the last meeting and I had contacted PFM, which is Public Financial Management, along with Baird Group, and they called me back quite a few times telling me that the person I needed to talk to, would be getting back to me. I still haven't heard from
That's
her.
Baird?
Baird, yes. And we also had Hartman, but I believe the committee wasn't too keen on them. So really, the only thing I have to present,
Who's Hartman?
Bob
The
Hartman.
Penn State model.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
That model.
I remember him, yeah.
So this company provided me with this information. This gentleman is willing to come out to one of our committee meetings if you want him to go through it and kind of show you how it works if you're at all interested with the attachments that he sent us. I can tell you, I did try to do a survey of the surrounding county of the business managers. Wilson does use this model. She likes it a lot. Most of the others don't really have a model or anything that they utilize. If they do, it's sort of on the order of Hartman. It's a real scaled down model that they create on their own. So I'm just looking.
I think we need it. I didn't see anything in here that was, Frank, we were sort of talking about this. I don't see anything in here. This is actually sort of what I was working on in Excel, and they just at the end throw a bunch of bells and whistles in with the graphs. I'd be interested to see a working model, a demo version or something.
I'd suggest getting them
I'd
out
like
here.
to see how they're putting their assumptions in, how they're generating their things, their projections. Because if it's another deal like Hartman, then it's not worth the paper.
Right, and that's why I didn't want to have him here tonight, because I wanted to see what the flavor of the board was, or of the committee was.
Yeah, I'd ask him. I'd be happy to have the guy come out, but beforehand, if he could email you some sort of demo model
Email me a demo model.
that we can kind of play with, and because I don't want him coming and making a PowerPoint presentation, and then I'm going to ask him the same questions I would had I not seen a model at all. So it'd be more interesting to say, well, look, I got on there, I saw you did X, Y, and Z. Why is that? Or can you change these things? How do we customize it to fit our needs? What kind of support are we going to get from you guys? There's a million things we can ask about. This could just be a ginned up version of an Excel model, and if that's the case, I'm not sure it's worth $6,000.
Danielle, maybe we can
a year.
meet with him administratively before we bring him to the board, have him come in and talk to us. I've
Just
done
see
that
what he'll
before.
send to us. He's got to send
I'll see
something.
what he'll send to us. If he
Yeah.
says, no, I really want to come out and I can actually have an interactive demo versus a PowerPoint, then
We'll have a finance committee meeting and we'll have them out and
Okay.
we'll go through it.
Yeah, I agree. That's good.
Yeah.
is there any, do you want me to have like a date in mind in case that's the case?
Well, just
to
call
get
him up
back
and
to
see
me?
what his availability is like. If we have to hold another finance committee meeting to just meet with him, that's fine. That's probably going to be more worthwhile because we're going to probably spend some time with him on this.
Correct.
So later in the month,
One
anytime
agenda.
after the committee of the whole meeting, I would say.
One agenda meeting,
Yeah.
Yeah. Just that's it, on the finance. That's fine.
Just see just try to get a couple of days from him, sometime from in each week, sometime from the 13th on, so that we can
Well,
try to coordinate with everybody here.
The 20th would be really bad for me.
The week of the 20th is
Yeah,
bad.
Just so you know, kids going back to school, I don't know.
Oh, that's right. So,
So that week I know is no good for me.
okay.
Your 45th.
35th.
So
my
let's
God.
think about sometime, whether it's next week, the following week, not the week of the 20th.
Yeah,
and
the
then
week of
last
20
week.
would be really tough for me.
This isn't pressing, but it'd be nice to strike while the iron's hot here. And
Well, I'll see what he's able to send me first.
Yeah.
And then if you like
That's
what you see or you feel that
Yeah.
you want him to come out, then I can go back and get some dates.
Correct.
Okay.
If he's not willing to send me anything and wants to come out,
That's
then
fine.
I'll get the dates
That sounds good.
and see.
All right. Thank you for doing that. Moving on, 2013-14 budget calendar. So, obviously, there seems to be a lot of consternation with the board, with our budget, starting earlier. How early can we start? Why does the process take so long? We're always making decisions at the end. So, it's August, just barely. So we can talk about, we always know what you need. You always print out our deadlines. So I guess you have that with you now.
Well, I don't.
Oh.
This is last year's.
Right.
So I have it if you want it. That's why I didn't send it to you, because I don't really want you to have it, because it's not this year. This doesn't come out till sometime in September.
Mm-hmm.
So I need this in order to work backwards to tell you when your deadlines are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why don't we hand that out as a model for now, for discussion?
You only have one, or you only have...
No, I have, I mean, but I don't know what discuss, I mean, because the date, I can't even begin to tell you, I don't know
But
when.
it shows, I
Usually
think
our
it's the
kickoff
process.
is in
Shows the
December,
process.
but I think what we're trying to figure out is what can we get done, or what can the administration get done in August, September, October, November. In terms of, okay, I get it, we can't talk about revenues because who knows what the state's doing in terms of the index and, you know, all these different things, but what can we start working on administratively in terms of assembling our projected expenditures? I mean, we know what the contracts are going to bear for.
You know,
Well-
it's 65%.
We do know what the contracts are. Here's where I was going to go with this is, I believe right now when we have our admin council meeting, I believe it's on the agenda to ask the buildings to have all of their stuff entered by the end of September, I think. The biggest part obviously is the salaries and benefits, which is kind of on me. But this is also the worst time. August, September, and October are my audit times. Like, I haven't even begun to work on it, and they're out next week. So administratively, I don't know what to tell you.
I think you got to make it, and we've had this conversation before,
Well-
I think you've got to make it look as bad as it gets, as early as possible, so people can work it. And then, in other words, if you can say, look, here's our predicted expenses, we know what some of the contracts are going to go up and what those expenses are going to be for the most part. There's always something you don't know. We don't know our revenues yet, but let's make an assumption there. Let's decide as a board, we make an assumption there on what those revenues will be, and then you come up with a balanced budget. You know, just go across all of the departments and cut whatever you got to cut in order to balance it, as ugly as it's got to look. But get it to zero as soon as you can, and say, okay, now we got to fix it. Now we got to start working toward fixing it, bringing stuff back that was cut out, that we don't want cut out. But at least we start from the very beginning at the ugliest point and start working our way to bring back the things that we really need to bring back. You know, like for example, people thought this coming budget year we may have to cut transportation. Well, why not have that in the budget come September? Let's get it out right away. Make it look as ugly as you can, balance that thing, even though it's balanced with things that you really don't want to cut. But that's our exercise then for the next couple of months, is saying, well, how do we get that thing back? We can't leave it out. How do we get it back, and what do we move? I just think the mindset is different.
No, I think what you're
You're
saying
working
is the mindset then becomes one of you're having that conversation about trade-offs a lot earlier in the process.
Well, it's not, every couple of weeks, we're not going back to Danielle and saying, Danielle, go find something else to cut and get this thing down a couple more thousand. Go find something else to cut. It's done. It's in September. You found all that junk. You cut it. It's zero. It looks ugly, but that's it. Now the work is on everyone else to try to, how do we get it back? How do we get these things back in that we took out, that we obviously are not willing to live with out of the budget, but this is what a balanced budget looks like.
Can I just make a side note? I'm not going to be the one to decide solely what's coming out.
Oh, no,
I'll
of
put
course
all the
not.
stuff
No, that's
together.
me.
I think,
That's me.
yeah,
That's me.
obviously. And I think you come up with something as simple as, I got to take X percent out of each department. It's just something to get that thing down to zero evenly.
Well, no, what I was going to say to you, when you look at it from that model, there's obviously going to have to be an X figure that I would say to the public, we need to cut staff in the tune of $2.5 million worth. And then we need to figure out who they are.
But that's sort of where we're relying on you as administrators. That's what Frank's saying is,
Right.
okay, well,
Tell
look,
us
that means you're cutting out phys ed. That means you're cutting out
Absolutely.
a music program. That means you're
Absolutely.
cutting out art or transportation.
no, I'll tell you what
or all
it
those
is.
Come
things.
to you with saying this already does not include an art department or a phys ed
We
or whatever the
we
case
don't
may
need
be.
elementary
Right.
music and art.
Right.
I
Get rid
have
of
a
that.
note
Drop
in
it.
here that
Drop
if we budget our
They will.
salaries at 5% for the budget, are we able to not do it at 5%?
No, not
Because then we
not all
we
the
didn't give them
salaries.
5.
The professional staff goes by their contract.
so
The
this-
support staff doesn't have a contract, so I'll have to pick something to put in there. I
Cost
mean,
of
if
living.
I'm
Use
told to put
CPI
zero,
Cost
Start.
of living.
Yeah, I just thought because 5% was what we had at one time.
Well, that was
That's
just for
budget,
one of
and
the
then-
groups.
That's just one.
Okay.
That was just one of the groups. I think the administrators, because they could have gotten
maximum would
CPI
be-
plus 2, so
So
I
I think we
was,
put the minimum amount that they
well, then
could
that
get.
would be the direction that I would
Well,
need when
I
I'm
think what we need to do,
compiling.
like what Frank is saying, let's make this thing worse.
Worse, go the
Right,
highest.
well,
So
that-
if you sit there and assume, if
Get
you
all the
assume that you're going to give it a
complainers in
5%
September,
increase,
October.
right, our expenses just went higher.
Then we can,
Yeah.
Like,
Right?
now.
So
Okay.
by assuming the worst, like when we're doing an analysis of the teachers and that sort of thing, well, assume that almost everybody, whatever the average number of people it is that goes and takes additional classes and that boosts them in the steps, add 5% or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So if you can look back historically and say, well, 10% of the teachers or 20% of the teachers go and take classes and they see it as a result of that a step of whatever it is, 1. Well, then let's assume that it's not 10% of the teachers, it's 15 or 20% of the teachers on a historical basis are going to go take their classes and get their step. Let's assume that nobody retires, everybody's at the max, or whatever the case may be. Or if we normally see turnover of, I don't know what the factor may be, of 5% or 4% in the school district, people just leave or people just retire, then reduce that number to where we realize savings, then reduce that number by a percentage, 2% or something else. I mean, you're always going to have a little bit of turnover, but maybe it's not going to be as much as whatever, so that our expenses look as worse as they possibly can be, right? Contractually speaking.
Right.
And then you sit there and say, okay, well, what levers do we have available to us to offset those contractual obligations? Well, transportation, this, that, the other thing, and that's the ugly part of this.
right,
whole
I think everyone could work that a little better, although it's as ugly as it can be, like the meet and discuss committee. They can go in there and say, look, guys, I'm not threatening, here it is. These are the things that are out of the budget right now, so let's work together to figure out how to get them back in. It's not this black hole of, what's going to be out next, what are they going to cut next? It's out there early on. And then you had last year, Dr. Otto, at some point stood up and presented the budget, on a projector.
So back on my
In
birthday.
January.
And
It was on
in
my
January.
birthday.
Now, if we were able to do
Remember
that, get close to that in September, I
Well,
think we'd be a lot.
Well, I have a question.
You're giving these guys heart palpitations when you say
See, here's what I was going to do. I was about to wait, fair enough. So you don't
We're looking at like November, December, which is late, but I don't know how else to do it
So
for
you're not
you.
the bad guy in this. Realistically, I think we got to give you a deadline of November 1st. One, and the reason why, I know it's really tough, but listen, first of all, the auditors, which is that's always a yearly thing. But two is we have a couple of new administrators shuffling around. You got to give them a chance to go in there. They might find something to get rid of in their buildings without us even knowing. So you got to go, and September, forget it. That's the first month of
Yeah, that's
school.
fine. I mean,
So
that's
I'm saying to you, I think by
But I'm-
November 1st, we need the first pass from him.
Well,
Set him a deadline.
that's not a problem.
It is.
I could give you a list of
Hey, I
suggestions.
gave you 45 days more than Frank.
I could give you, I could probably,
30th.
seriously, within about 60 days, I could probably give you a list of suggestions.
Yeah.
I'm serious, within about
That's
60
fine.
days.
That's November 1st.
Right, but he doesn't
No,
have
60
dollar
days is
values
October
to
1st.
tie to that.
No, I would no.
I wouldn't have
Here's
exact dollar figures,
Here's
right?
what I would do.
I already know where we need to
I
go.
think in
Salaries
fairness
and
to you
benefits
guys
part,
and new
something
administration
that's
role,
gonna
people
occupy a lot
shuffling
of your time.
principals
What
role.
exactly?
November 1st is the deadline.
In the
You have to submit to us by
personnel
November
module,
1st.
I have to add
Don't
all
you
new
think?
contracts
Yeah, yeah.
and
If you think you
tie
can do that,
people
I
to
And
think
here's the
them.
reason why.
Awesome.
Our first
Like
finance
Bob
meeting in
Smith, you
November,
gotta
that's
put
when
his
we start.
contract in.
We've
Well, I
just
have
never
to
done it that
I
way.
put the whole
Right, I know.
teacher
You have
contract
never
in,
done
and
it
then I
that
have
way.
to
It's-
attach
you're always
them
looking
to
at this
each
big
person.
deficit.
Well, we're looking at it,
They're all
And then
going to be at a
benefits.
different
Andrew,
place.
Andrew,
you know that word.
Yeah.
We're looking at it that
But each year I
way.
have to do a new chart and then reattach them and make sure everybody's at the same
Andrew, here's
it's
what
a
we said.
process.
Frank and I think November 1st deadline, first committee meeting of February, that's what we discussed. Give us as rough as you can. But if we don't give you a date, it will be January. Not because of you, because of us. We'll forget about it. So we have to give you some kind of deadline.
No, you want the shock and awe in November.
Right. It doesn't
yeah,
mean we
well-
can't be talking about it
Right.
in September,
Correct.
October, but I mean, if,
Correct, but we just want to...
You want the shock and awe
some first
early. I
pass.
get that.
yeah.
I mean, isn't
Maybe it's not gonna be
spreadsheet you've
shock and
already
awe.
Provided me going to be enough to sort of start this. When we sort of assimilated everybody and said, here's what the salaries and benefits are of our current staff, and this is what if the contract as it is. Here's what the cost is going to be for the next 5 years or 3 years in that contract.
But
or
that
whatever.
has changed, like that original set
Okay,
of data
because some
has
people have moved
changed.
and left, but
Right.
net, has it changed by 1% or has it changed by 10%?
can't be that far off.
You can't be that far off.
You got to be within 10%.
I can even give you a couple scenarios like I did in January.
But I'm not going
Tax,
to do an
fund
Excel
balance,
spreadsheet
no
and not
tax,
do it in
fund
the system
balance.
and
Fund
get
balance,
messed
No,
up
what
for
Frank-
that
I mean,
fashion.
What Frank's
Yeah, I mean,
suggesting
that's
is,
doable. I mean, that's-
if we show a difference of
Harder
$5
for
million,
us to
and a month later you
Because there's
redo
more than
the
one way to get
numbers,
home.
and it's 4.5, okay,
But
so
I
what?
need to
It's
get you
still
the numbers
40.
from somewhere, and the only way I know how to get you the numbers is from my system.
Yeah, but most of the numbers are fixed. The
What would've-
teachers are fixed.
What would have changed?
The custodial
because-
staff-
Yeah, I mean, that's
the
the biggest one,
classified
right?
staff
So,
use
and that's the
cost
most
of living.
time-consuming part of this, is tying the teachers
Well,
to
it's
the...
everyone, because everyone has a
Because
contract
so
that gets
that-
tied to.
Yeah, but
Every
you
single
went through
class-
that exercise once, and you gave me a spreadsheet.
You can also put assumptions on the bottom of the paper.
Whatever
Wait,
it was.
that's
I
a
can,
spreadsheet versus what I do out of the system, though.
No, I'm talking about a spreadsheet. for the
how did you
first
generate the numbers you gave me out of the system?
From what I had already compiled and entered into the system, I downloaded
For
the
this
12,
coming
13
year?
numbers,
Right.
and then we used those
We
numbers.
extrapolated those numbers
We
based on
need
the
to take
And then I
contract
this
went-
with
before.
that, told
Right.
everybody to test
Okay,
it out.
so that's what we'll work
That's
with
what
to
we
start,
need.
right? Because those numbers, when you gave them,
Right.
whatever that was,
Yeah.
March or April,
Right.
How
you're
much
right,
could they have really
wouldn't be
changed?
that-
We don't even know that- we don't
well,
even-
I mean, your administrators will be a little high because I didn't go back
we
and
don't-
take down, but they're
okay,
high.
but I'd rather have them high, right?
Right.
We don't even have that detail.
And even people have retired or teachers have gone somewhere else, we're always hiring people at a lower scale, correct?
Right, and I
Correct,
still
you
have the
won't know
retired
that.
teachers in there. The manual that I take out is on the budget side,
Correct.
so the
the numbers
Michelle
you've already
Webbers, for
given me-
example, that retired this year, her salary's still in there,
Correct.
so
All right,
it's
so
higher.
let's work with that document, okay? That spreadsheet. I'll email it back to you because what I did was you sent me like 18 of them.
Right.
I put them all in one worksheet,
Okay.
okay? And then I aggregated all the data into one page in that worksheet. So I'll email that back to you. I'll copy the whole board on it or the committee members on it so everybody sees what I'm sending back to you. But that, I think, is what you start with.
I guarantee you, when
That's
that,
the salaries
other
and
districts will
benefits.
start doing
Well,
that.
that's 65% of
we
our
also
budget,
know
right?
we also know that your numbers aren't going to be 100% right. I mean, I always sit around the table and realize that come
We're not-
November.
Now that's expenditure side. I never got to do the revenue.
Forget the revenue side.
No,
Like
I think
Frank
you
said,
have to make an
it's
assumption.
always big-
Revenue
same
is
amount.
Yes,
Either
Level,
it's
level
Revenue's
funding.
flat.
That's what I would
Revenue's
say
flat.
is
Revenue's
level.
flat.
Revenue's flat.
And it's
So
going to be
whatever
flat.
we're approving
Whatever
is
we
what-
use.
If you actually look at the
Whatever
last
is
3
now
years,
is
Revenue's
if you
flat.
look at our last 3 years, our revenue's essentially been flat.
But here's,
Yeah,
the thing,
I
here's
know.
what I think, Frank. We don't want to do that exercise in January. Let's start that in November.
Well, I've always
people-
had it ready for November. It just has never.
Well, that's
kind
so
of
people can
come
mull over it over
forward.
the holidays and get angry.
I'll do the shock and awe for Thanksgiving.
No, well,
I'm
yeah,
sure I
yeah,
can-
seriously.
I can provide
I
Dr.
think
Otto
that's
with
what we wanna
information
do.
from that,
Don't
and
you
it's
think?
it's not going to be a
absolutely.
lot.
And
but-
we're not criticizing, we realize
We
that
realize
it's
they're not gonna be
early
perfect.
numbers. We
Yeah.
realize they're early numbers. We're not going to criticize that.
But like I think
But
what
it gives
Frank,
everybody a chance to say, instead of looking and saying, well, what do we cut next out of everything in this district? All the cuts are there. And now it's just a matter of thinking, well, how do we get them back?
Correct.
So you get focused people coming in here trying to get their thing back instead of just sitting there, biting their nails thinking, am I next, am I next?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, we started off last year with a $3 million, discrepancy. So by starting off with whatever that number is, a $3 million discrepancy early, at least we're having these conversations about these things at an earlier date, and we can start to push back. You can push back
Plus-
on the administrators. You can
plus, like
push
Frank
back
said,
on.
if we have the public come out and we cut, I don't care, X, and January we say, listen, okay, X is not going to be cut. Those people will go away and they're off, they're out, they're done. We don't have to keep like letting that group, a selected group or whoever they are, linger. So if we paint the worst case scenario and say it's $6 million, Andrew, for example, and we decide we're going to get rid of X program, and we come back and we discuss it, we all sat around, 9 of us, even though it's never final till June, say, listen, X got to stay. Boom. Because in her numbers, those people for X, they go away until the end.
So you're saying November 1st. So November, are we going
rough.
to do this at a finance, or is this
Sure,
going to
first
be out
finance
of?
committee meeting.
Yeah, finance committee meeting.
November.
We're going to have them anyway in November.
Yeah.
I mean, every month, do them the first finance meeting in November.
Right, that's what I'm just
Yeah, we
making
can
my
ease
notes.
into it
So
at finance meeting.
Well, I mean, there
Where they are.
Yeah.
are going to be things in there people aren't going to like
All the heart
seeing.
attacks first before the other rest of the work
that's
does.
Okay.
we can have those in the system.
Sure.
Right.
It's just the stuff that you and I do, like the transportation.
Yeah.
the-
We're not going to hold you down to the.
If we're going to use those spreadsheets for salaries
not
and
gonna hold
benefits, that's a
exact
huge
payment.
part of
And
what I
the
don't have.
transportation will just use,
I'll
When's our
try to get my
transportation contract
September
run out?
bill, and
This
that's
year?
by the end of September. We probably have all.
We've
our
been
runs
modifying
to
it
go.
every year.
But I think it's done this year.
what?
What?
Transportation done.
Well, let's
Yeah.
not get specific
13.
now. We'll
Yeah.
come up with a
It's
list.
done.
I think it's done to 13, right? June 13. And so is the custodial, the classified.
What's done June
The
13th?
Transportation.
Oh, no, it's extended to like 15, 16, I thought.
Transportation?
Uh-huh.
No.
Yeah, with the last,
I think we only did it one.
no, with the very last one, I think it was, I think 14, 15, now I think it's 15, 16 from just this past June. I'm pretty sure of it.
You
Do you
might
have
be
the
right.
actual attachment?
They should be all online. Should they be in our documents?
Would that be the,
Transportation?
Probably, was it at the June meeting maybe? You would have it as an
I don't think we
attachment
extended it, did we?
from Mr.
yeah,
Potts?
I thought we did. I thought we extended.
It was extended as well as
The
them taking.
last time,
I think
and it
you're
came
right.
up.
I think it's 15, 16.
Yeah, I think it is. I think
Oh,
it's
here's the
extended.
contract, hold on. Let's see if it's right
Well, that's either here nor
Well,
there
that's
right
either
now.
here or there, but, well, we can keep going on. Go ahead, Andrew. We can look that up. But I thought it was done. I thought it was done this year.
So is that the general direction under this item, to have us begin to
Sure.
ramp up the process a couple months, basically, is what
Sure.
you're saying?
Yeah.
Basically, to have,
Let's ruin the
for me
holidays
to
for
try to maybe get you numbers sometime like early October, then you have October to decide kind of what you can, like I can say, okay, here's your revenues,
I'm
here's
already
your
thinking about it.
expenses. This is how much we
I
have
don't
to
really,
slack.
the numbers just fill in where I think, confirm what I'm thinking already.
But we get it out early. We get it out early to everybody.
Well, I'm not going to say now, since we're
Let's see
being
what it looks
taped,
like.
but I already have
No, I
thoughts on.
understand.
It was the second addendum to the transportation.
Mhm. Yep.
Through 2014, 2015.
Okay, so 14.
14, 15,
So 2 more years.
Frank, is your plugged out?
yeah. Yeah, I think it's plugged in.
Yeah, but I don't think it's on.
Yeah, that little red light's not
No,
on.
it's not. You're right. Is it on there?
Okay. So that's November 1. And I'm going to email you.
Probably not plugged in, whatever goes next.
And then as the months go on, I'll be getting that information
go.
into
What the hell
the
happened?
system.
You turn that one
I
off?
turned it on.
No,
I turn it on or off?
Turned it off.
turn that off. Sorry.
I said as those months go on, then from when we
It's on.
look at those spreadsheets that we're using, I'll be
Okay,
now
made the phone
updating
come
the
on.
One by
system
Andrew's
and be
right.
able to then give you
Oh, your foot in.
like what I've actually have in versus
Right.
what we had thought.
No, that one's on. It says it's on. It's not plugged in.
So I gotta make sure that the spreadsheet has power.
All right, now we got that straightened
Thank you.
out. You guys have power now?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, moving on. Let's see. Our capital reserve fund balances. So, looking at the spreadsheet you sent to us.
I had provided you two.
Yep.
One as of the end of June 30th, which still, or actually were balances through May and my projections through June. And then the more recent one is my projections through the end of July, which you'll now see we did get all the escrow money back.
Mm-hmm.
And you see the bottom line there is with the payment of the bonds that we were defeasing.
Yes.
And then all of Mr. Smith's chillers are now coming out of capital project. That will be closed.
Yeah.
We will actually have all but $500,000 in capital reserve.
So we end up with 500. We started with 500. We defease the bonds. We get our escrows back, and he spends $300,000 in chillers, and we end up at 500.
For the overall, for capital and,
Yeah.
right. Really, after the chillers are done, you won't see a capital quote-unquote project line section anymore because it'll be gone. So you'll just have the capital reserve piece.
Mm-hmm.
And what you see under capital reserve are the items that the board had approved in May.
Yeah.
That I'm
For this
assuming
year.
that-
Yeah.
Right, that Mr.
He
Smith
doesn't-
had presented.
At our next facilities committee meeting, he's going to provide a more long-term plan.
All right, because that's what we want to start looking at then in terms
Yeah,
of...
he's just been bogged down with this move. so he
Yeah,
doesn't
he's
have
done it before. I mean, I think the issue is we really need him to give us like a 5 to 10 year sort of projection on, because we're going to want to incorporate that into our multi-year budget.
We talked about that. He's going to have that ready
Yeah.
for, I guess, to start the conversation at facilities, and then we can cross-reference it for finance.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if we need to be allocating money towards our capital reserves, so and we need to put that in the budget too.
Right.
Then that's what we got to
Yeah,
do.
actually thinking of that, oh, I'm sorry,
No, go
Frank.
ahead.
Thinking of that, I know the board had suggested that a while ago, we never did. Since we're going all in, should we put an amount to
well,
transfer
I mean, I
to
think
capital? For
any
13,
good
14.
budget would put aside some money every year towards your capital reserves, but sometimes you fiscally can't do it. So that's what we've been doing. Is
Biting that bullet.
Biting that bullet. Now, at the end of the day, I'd like to see what the capital demands are going to be going forward, and he's the one that's got to tell us that. And then how do we get the money? How do we make sure we have the money available? So any good reserve study is going to show you on a historical basis, look, these are when these costs are going to hit. This is how much money you have now, which means this is how much money you need to start putting away every year to have those funds available. If you think over 7 years you need $1 million, you don't need $1 million up front. You may only need $100,000 next year, $300 by the year after that, $200 the following, and so on and so forth. So we need to start modeling that out so that we're.
Mr. Smith, I'm almost sure, started that.
Wasn't there a
Because
discussion
we
to
had-
hire somebody, or he went and got quotes or something?
He
I
did.
remember
He talked to a couple different engineers.
With the crunch, we backed down on that.
Yeah, it wasn't cheap, right?
No, but
No, it's not.
I think he just talked to Yerkes Engineering. There are other groups that he can talk to do reserve studies that I think would be a little bit less expensive than that. I mean, at the end of the day, a 20-year reserve study would be ideal because, that's what most large organizations do. They have a big physical plant like we do to budget against and budget for. I mean,
So we opted against that, and Mr. Smith is going to try to do it himself for a couple of
He
years, 5
started
years?
something, because I'm on the facilities committee, and he had started doing that.
I mean, he can
already.
tell you
He was
probably-
like a couple years out, but he wasn't.
He can go 2 or 3 years out just
Right.
knowing what we have, but I think these reserve studies look at wear and tear on buildings and factor in.
sidewalk, street lights,
Exactly, all that stuff. We're not expert, I mean,
asphalt,
Ken can.
well, actually, we're going to have a need someday to replace the turf down on the field.
the turf, the track.
That
I mean,
only
all
has
those things.
that has a finite life.
7 years, 5 years. One of them was 5, one was 7. So, there's a lot of things to look at there. I mean, I think the difference is that engineers actually get up on the roof, they walk the roof, they look at the conditions, they say, okay, well, this thing's on its way out. You can see the seams. Time to take care of this, or you
Right.
can. And they give you every 5 years you should be seal coating. Every 15 or 20 years you're going to be replacing the asphalt in your parking lots and drives.
Right.
Those are big numbers.
Right. So what is our plan?
Well, we're going to bring that up at facilities.
Facilities.
Don't go through it first.
We'll go through it as a
Internally?
facilities conversation, and then come back with a recommendation as to how to accomplish whether we want to go explore a reserve study, whether secondarily we want to start putting money into capital reserve. I think the thing that's been hamstringing us for putting money into cap reserve has been everything else with the budget, with the
Yeah.
pension spike and this and that. We've been had to set aside money for that.
Yeah.
Money
I think-
you
Specifically,
traditionally
study is what
right.
I'm referring to.
Oh,
But I
study.
think if you're going to spend.
Prioritized a lot of what needed to get done last year. He put everything into priority, just like the roof, and then he did that leak task to see where the leak was. I mean, he did a lot last year to get a priority going.
Yeah, I think what we need to
He
do
just
though
hasn't
is,
brought it out through the years yet.
at the end of the day, when you're thinking about cutting a program versus how much money you're putting into reserves, the program's going to win
Always
out
win
every
out.
time.
Yeah.
So until it's a crisis, and then you have to spend money out of reserves, right? Until the roof goes. So I think the issue really one is to convince people on a board, 9 people, that hey, look, we do need to allocate, pick a number, $100,000 through capital reserves, and that may mean you need to cut something, or you need to raise taxes, or whatever the answer is to accomplish that. You have to be able to point at something and say, well, here's the reason why, right? And to say, well, maybe we need it for this. I mean, I think at the end of the day, a reserve study conducted by some engineers is really what's appropriate, because I don't think Kenny's got his eye on, maybe he does, he's got his eye on a lot of things, but maybe he doesn't have his eye on some of the bigger ticket items that need to get addressed in the school district when it comes to the buildings and grounds. He's focused on the mechanicals maybe, or a
Right.
roof or something like that, the day-to-day stuff.
To back up the conversation, part of the bigger budget, I can't get the words out. The bigger budget discussion is that maybe we just have to make a commitment to say, no matter how bad it is, we're going to, whatever we can afford to put into cap reserve, we at least do something every year, even if it's minimal, even if it's only $50,000 or something like that. You get into the
Well, we
habit
are
that
doing
you're
that
doing
now, right, through the demand response program?
Whatever his
Whatever
demand
his savings
response
are.
checks are, that's where they do
Yes.
go. I
Well, in a
don't
sense,
know
you're right, we are
now
doing
the
that, but-
You never
total,
know.
yes.
It's like $20,000 or $30,000 a year.
Yeah, it's not.
And I think
It's not
with
minuscule.
whatever we were going to do this year, it actually will double for next year or something. I think he had shared with me. So.
I think it's going to be higher this year because of the 100-degree weather we had this summer.
Right, and
so.
then there was also something with what he was doing. If we met it this year, then next year it was going to be 1 or 2 times, like 2 or 3 times.
They had a
There was
multiple that they
multiple to it if we met it this year.
All right. Any other comments on that? But I think getting a reserve study out is probably going to be on the list of things to get done in the next 12 months or so. You guys can talk about that in facilities. If he needs names and numbers of firms, I can certainly give him some.
We'll cross-reference that. Mrs. Hamill's on the committee, so we can.
Swap. Part of the monthly finance committee meeting, just wanted people aware of where we were with the swap balance and how much money that we've paid in taxes, or I'm sorry, in interest on the swap, so everyone's aware of that. It doesn't become something that gets put on the back burner. I shared with you all a little bit about this whole issue about the LIBOR scandal. It'd be interesting to see how that falls out because part of our interest rates that we're paying on this thing and the valuation of the bond is directly tied to LIBOR. So that could have a significant impact to us. And so depending on what the state attorney general does or if other class action lawsuits start kicking into place, there may be an opportunity for us to participate in something and it may benefit us. So,
Just to piggy off, back off of what you're saying, if you all recall, I don't even know at what point it was last year, but we received about $13,000 because of the Auditor General looking into the swaps with Bank of America, if you remember that. Well, I just got another one in the mail this week. This one is now with Wells Fargo. So, like the other one, I do nothing at this point. Eventually, I will get a letter saying that your claim is this, and then, of course, I'll submit for it, and you'll either ratify it or tell me to submit it however it falls. But just so you know, there's another one, and it's exactly the same type of paperwork and everything based on the swap.
What are these based on?
derivatives.
Somebody mismanaged the money?
no, because these financial institutions were coming in
Price
and presenting
fixing.
them.
Price.
Well, this one may be
This one
price
says
fixing,
price
but
fixing.
they are presenting these things to municipalities as it's a derivative product, right? I mean, it's essentially a hedge, and you're betting on which way the market's going to go.
Oh,
but
it's a
they are
derivative.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what they
I
were
get
doing,
it.
they were presenting it as a safe alternative for investments, and lots of municipalities lost their shirts. They literally went bankrupt as a result of these things because they went negative, and the cost to continue to stay in these swaps exceeded.
So when
what
those
the
things
revenues
go
were.
negative, you get dinged for the negative.
Yeah, we've paid
that
an
how
extra
that works?
$330,000 in interest beyond what we would have had we not participated in it. We're one of the fortunate ones. There's a whole city in the state of South Carolina that went completely under. I mean, there were hundreds of millions of dollars in debt. I think the school district in Allentown, Bethlehem School District or something like that,
Bethlehem was in the news.
they were
a while
20 or
ago.
50 million
It's
dollars.
like
in
drawing
debt.
a jack when you're holding 12.
It's betting on black when red shows up. Is really what it is.
I
So
get it now. It's drawing a jack when you're holding 12.
It's a big deal. I mean, billions of dollars were lost.
I try to understand that derivative stuff. It's a little over my head, but I think I get the general drift.
Real estate tax revenue. So I was just kind of curious. I was looking back at our last statements. I mean, how did we do? And
June came in at $20,513. So our actual in real estate tax revenue for the year was $305,588, and we had budgeted the $250. So we were pretty close to my $300 that I was projecting at that.
we budgeted $250 for next year, or what did we budget for last year?
We budgeted 11, 12, 250, and then I
think you kept it.
I thought I wanted to change it for 12, 13,
I think
and then
you
I
kept
think
it,
we
yeah.
kept it to
Yeah,
250.
I think you
Yeah.
were gonna go
Because
through
I
and
went
then
back
you
and
went
did
back
some further
Well,
research.
one was
and there
were a
were
couple
quite a
one-off
few large.
Transactions.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so that's good. All right.
Hey, how's the market sale going back and forth? People buying and selling. I see a lot of houses like sold in my neighborhood. A lot. Yeah.
That's good.
I told one house.
What
up-
price? That's the issue.
You're not seeing it in the transfer.
Foreclosures are at a record high now.
No, the weird thing is I saw like two houses less. I mean, they were asking like 199. They got 198. I mean, it was like
Really?
4 weeks.
Now, I'm not really seeing it in the.
Well, like two houses in my
transactions at all.
neighborhood went up like, and 4 weeks later they were gone.
Now, we haven't gotten July
I was just curious
yet.
if you noticed a lot going around the school district, that's all.
Not a whole lot there in June, but
Okay.
maybe some
I don't
stuff
see
happened, and
Yeah,
we didn't
happened in
get July yet,
July,
so maybe
so-
we didn't
No, I was
see
just curious,
July.
'cause like I
You
said-
so you see it in the month that after it occurs, like
Once it's
house
recorded.
sells
Once it's
in July?
recorded, no, once
recorded.
Once it's recorded and the transfer tax is
Once
paid,
the county does it.
So how long is that typically?
Yeah,
They did theirs in May. and it
15 to
was-
30 days usually. There's a lag.
Yeah, it could be a little more, because
I-
it hit the
I
paper,
think
my
it's
neighbors
a
hit the
little
paper
over
this
30.
week, and they sold theirs like in June.
I was
Yeah,
6
it
weeks?
was, they were lagging
Yeah, the county's way
months behind at
behind.
one
It was
point.
6
Well, that's because they couldn't keep up with the volume. Now,
Now we're.
there's no volume,
I was
so
gonna say it's
But
like
even
almost
still, they're
a
about
month.
you got a clerk
6
sitting there
weeks
going,
behind.
"What? I got 4 today." Okay,
Yeah,
it was
they're
before
like-
it was 400.
Yeah,
you know
They
what I
got
mean?
like,
So
they're still about 6 weeks behind, 4 to 6 weeks.
I'm gonna say a month.
I'm just curious. I was just curious if you noticed that.
So we exceeded our budget number last year by $5,000?
50.
55.
55,000.
Yeah.
Which
I'm
we-
sorry, you had 250 and we got 305, okay.
Which I was
No problem.
making.
Okay, moving on to the actuary auditor recommendation. I guess,
I had sent out 2
yeah, I
documents.
saw that. So the first, let's start with the GASB 45 valuation quotes.
Yep.
So just for the benefit of the board, can you remind us what GASB 45 speaks to?
Right, that's the cost that the cost to provide health insurance to all employees, current and retired, up through Medicare age. It's basically other post-employment benefits, which is a little misleading because you think other post-employment would be just for retirement or retirees, but it's really not. It's looking at, like I said, the cost to provide health insurance to all employees till they're age 65 if they stay with your organization. Basically, it doesn't affect our operating, if you will. I mean, it does in a sense because our premiums that we're paying for healthcare every year obviously are going into what this liability is for us over the long term. But it's really more a valuation that's just used by our auditors on our financial statements, which is
Are they using, so these guys do the valuation quotes, our auditors look at it and say, yeah, you're putting in the required amount, or no, you're not? Is that what this is?
We are doing it unfunded. They provide us one that says if you wanted to fund this liability for all your employees, you would have to put X number away. We don't do that. We do a pay-as-you-go, which is we're paying our health care premiums every month. But on our books, they have to record what that liability would be if we had to.
So it's kind of a fictitious number.
No,
Well, it's a projected number.
why would you pay it? Especially under the consortium, that could change.
That's what when I talked to Linda, she said there's really,
There's no-
their
I mean-
advice to us would be as we're doing it.
Yeah,
There's really,
well,
because
pay-
ours
pay
is
as
not
you go.
that large.
Yeah, pay as you go.
Because of us not providing retiree health benefits, she said you have other districts that have more towards, like, let's say Chester County way, that may, once you retire, you have benefits for 10 years for you and your spouse. Those folks, their
That's
liability is
different.
huge.
Yeah, that's different.
Whereas ours is very small because we don't provide that. Ours is really our current employees.
Correct.
And where the retirees come in is their usage will then drive our rates for our current employees.
Correct.
Even though we're not paying for our retirees, they're still on our
They're saying
plan.
that they're affecting our rates
Our-
because they're
our
still.
experience.
Correct.
Right.
So this is a requirement by the federal,
This is a requirement by GASB that it's every 2 years.
okay.
This is we've already had, this will be the 6th time. We had 2 and 2. And this
Even if it doesn't apply to us, we have to do it anyways?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
We use Conrad Siegel, right?
We have used Conrad Siegel for the past 2 times. That's who I am recommending
I
again.
know, I saw your note.
Yeah,
For me, yeah, the other fire auditors aren't too familiar with, and then the other one, you get what you pay
and
for.
Conrad Siegel is on the state contract.
Correct.
That's why
Yeah,
we.
That's why we
kinda-
went with him in the first place.
Exactly.
You're saying you don't like him?
No, I said I would go with him.
Oh.
I wouldn't go. I wouldn't go back to the other one, Markley, only because.
I had gotten a paper from them saying, "Hey, let us
But-
quote it." So I thought, "All right,
Yeah, that's fine. I
You
mean,
know, but I'm not real.
To me, I go with.
Let me ask you a question, though. If it's meaningless, and you define the scope of work, you say these are the numbers you need to have, right? then whoever it is, whether it's Millman, Conrad Siegel, Markley, Richard, they all have to provide the same numbers to us, right? I mean, I thought what you said
They
in
have
here
to
was,
provide the numbers, but not necessarily in the same format.
And they also don't get the same number.
They may not, because they may use different
Different
assumptions.
assumptions.
okay, well, that's fine. Anybody's going to come up with different assumptions. I'm just wondering if at the end of the day, this number doesn't mean anything to
Oh, I
us,
see what you're saying.
then why are we
So-
spending the extra money
I see what you're
to
saying.
go do this? If at the end of the day, if it mattered, I'd say, yeah, Conrad
But
Siegel.
wait,
It
but
matters on our
It
financial
doesn't matter to our
statement.
auditors. Our auditors might not. They might put a
finding.
Well, and
could
that's,
they put a disclosure on our financial statements that they got this
These
number
are
from this
unaudited.
company, but they don't accept
They're-
them?
well, her caution to me was with the disclosures that they need to do, Conrad Siegel provides them exactly what they need to include. Markley, I think is what she said, doesn't.
Which means they might not
So
give us a
we
clean
actually have to
financial
go
statement.
back and may have to pay more, or
Could not give us a clean financial statement.
They
Well,
could
that's-
not, they may not be able to render an opinion if they don't have the information that
problem.
they
Well, I guess what
want.
I'm wondering, though, is who defines what the scope of work is? If you go to, I don't care, I mean,
I believe GASB
GASB
45
okay.
actually.
so if GASB 45 does, and you say to Markey, you got to provide the information that our auditor is going to need, and this is the rate, and they don't do it, then you go back and say, get us the information. It shouldn't cost us anything else, right? You say, you got to give it to us. That's what we contracted you to provide us, and now you're telling us it's not going to, you didn't provide it, so go back and do the work. I mean, I don't give, it's $1,000. I mean, I'm just asking.
$1,200, I don't
Yeah.
know, to your
Actually,
question.
so
I
for
mean,
2
I don't-
years, right?
It's, right,
So
it's,
it's only $600.
A year,
okay.
but it's,
well,
look,
yeah. I mean, it's an expense
me,
in
I'm
12,
sorry,
13,
I-
and you won't see it till 14.
I would
15.
rather knowing you're going to get what you need and it's clean and no other.
I mean, I know from working with the actual statement that they provide and what I'm doing with the audit, it's very easy for me to pull the numbers and everything that I need to pull and do, but I don't know about Markley because
I wouldn't mess with this one.
And also, Conrad knows this already. They did it twice.
Well, that's the other thing. The ease for my benefits person to pull all this information together.
Right.
We have all the formats set up. We just now have to just change the,
$1,200,
update it.
Andrew. Let it go.
I mean, I don't.
$1,200 is $1,200.
I realize that, but I'm just, that's why I just wanted to caution.
I think you're going to spend more on the person pulling records and stuff.
Can't they just submit the same stuff that we had from?
No, everybody has
No,
a different.
you have to-
You just
now
hand them the
personnel
format
change-
we gave and said, Mark,
No.
here you go.
Person-
They
personnel
won't
change.
take it. I mean, I want to bring it. I want to bring it
Conrad.
forward. So whatever
What do you
I'm.
want?
I'd rather stay out of trouble.
Yeah,
with the
for
auditor.
$1,200.
They get a clean opinion.
Yeah. And we've used them, and we know that our auditor knows them for $1,200. Just keep us out of the papers.
All right, we'll go with Conrad.
That's my recommendation, right? You want to stay out of the paper.
Thank you.
Yep. Herbine and Company, Inc. The analysis of the RFP for auditing. So
What elements in there?
I didn't send one to him.
I'm just
You
curious.
know, I thought about it, but then I don't know what to do in that situation.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually
I
sent
don't think he
to.
does school districts anyway.
I would suggest we get a couple more bids from different vendors. I mean, you only have one bid.
Try Tomasi and Company.
Where are they?
Why I'm missing?
How do you spell it?
TOMASSI, something like that.
I think.
So then I would have to send it out to Herbine again because we're reopening it.
Yeah.
Correct.
Check with. I know he did do schools.
I thought that the last time that,
Doesn't PASMA have a list, or?
Well, that's where I got
Correct, but
these folks from.
But these are three, right? I mean, they gotta have a list of like 20 or 50
Well-
school or accounting firms that do this.
some don't do it, some don't aren't that big, but some aren't up on school. 20 years ago he did schools.
And some, like you saw, the one declined. He actually sent me a
Correct.
letter saying we have other clients that were not willing to add another client. So.
Send it to Tomasi.
We can throw another volley out.
Tomasi and Company.
Yeah, I think you need to get at least, for the board to consider whether Irvine and Company is the one, I think we need at least a couple other benchmarks to look at. Never hurts to have multiple bids.
No, and that's fine. I mean, I just didn't know. I don't.
Again, he did 20 years ago. I don't know if he does it now.
I mean, Irvine and Company can't be doing all the school districts around here.
In Berks County.
In Berks County, but it doesn't have to be a Berks County auditor. It
Well-
could be a Chester County auditor.
Could be- it could be
We're
anybody.
2 miles from the Chester County
Right,
line for
could be.
crying out loud. It could
Yeah.
be,
There is a company, and I mean, I don't, that I know I could go out to, and they're going to be a lot lower, but I personally wouldn't recommend using them because I just wouldn't be comfortable with them. So that's why I haven't sent one
Well,
to them.
yeah, I know, I agree with you.
I mean,
You
I
get
kind
what
of
you
have
pay
picked
for.
who I've sent to because I've heard
Correct.
and know of them. That's why.
But this one, I do know that
Okay,
guy.
that's fine. I don't even remember seeing that on that name on Pasco's.
Then maybe he doesn't do them anymore.
But that's okay. I mean, it doesn't hurt to
doesn't
send
hurt
them.
to
I mean, take a look at Montgomery County and Chester
Because I
County
do
too,
know-
for vendors that work in those. I mean, we're
Remember when Exeter was
2
in
miles away
trouble?
from those counties. I mean, I
Remember
can't
when
believe that
Exeter
there's,
was 20 years
A lot
ago?
of them,
Gary.
What?
Remember when Exeter was
one
20
of the
years
other
ago?
large
Giles.
ones will not come back here.
Giles.
That was our
Well, I haven't
company.
sent to them because
He
of
was
the
the one
issue
that
that was
was
here.
Right,
Brains
they'll
in.
never come back here
why?
Barbicane. Because we sued them.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Um,
and they're really
Now
the
he's
other
stealing
large
money.
audit
What
firm
was he stealing?
that is in this area. So,
Irvine and them are the two
Yeah.
that I've used in all the schools
Yeah.
I've been in. So.
and we're not going to get them to come in here.
Okay, that's fine. I just got, there's got to be some other ones we can get some numbers from.
He was the lead auditor now.
I mean, it's hard to say yes to something where we only have one price.
I know. I mean, I
So-
didn't, but I wanted to. I mean, I did send it out, and that was
Yeah.
the responses that I got. So.
Okay. Food service RFP. Did I miss that?
No, I just,
She added that.
all I need to do is I just have to put it on the board agenda that the board approves that I can go out for RFP. It's
Oh.
just one of those
Informational
procedural
item.
things that I just
Sure. That's an
wanted to tell you
informational
here
Yep.
so that I can start working
That's
on
all
that.
we have.
Yep.
So that'll go on.
Okay.
That's not all we had, the banking.
Yeah, so the one other thing,
Sorry.
one other thing I asked was just,
It's under other OB.
annually, we kind of look at our banking relationships in our firm and make sure that A, the accounts that we have are the appropriate accounts for the business that we're doing, and then B, whether those accounts, how those accounts measure up to what other financial institutions are offering, so that we can either move our business somewhere else or negotiate with our current lending partners to say, hey, wait a minute, X, Y, and Z is offering this. We're one of your good customers. Why aren't we getting the same kind of deal? And we do that on a regular basis, and like I said, on an annual basis, and we find that it yields significant revenues and or savings for our organization. So as we were doing it, I thought, I wonder what Daniel Boone does. And so I sent a quick email off to Danielle asking her, well, who do we do business with? What business do we do with them? How's it being handled? And do we do the same thing? Do we go out and see, are the accounts that we have the best ones that we can get? Obviously, there's lots of different considerations, relationships, and things of that, ease of use, and other things that need to be considered. It's not always about the bottom dime, but as a preliminary, what's going on? She provided that Word document back to everybody. So if you guys don't mind walking us through that, that might be just informative. So NatPen, we have a lockbox account with them.
Right, that's where, when you get your tax bills, you can mail it to the lockbox or pay in person at National Pen. That is basically all we use National Pen for.
Now, what is the cost for the Dropbox?
If you look, there was a second sheet
Oh, is there?
attached that
Sorry,
has fees
I didn't
on
get
it.
past the first.
That's okay. We did the fees in the back there. So for that particular, there's $130 a month monthly maintenance, $55 a month for the data transmission, and then we pay 65 cents per invoice for a processing fee.
What does that per invoice cost translate to overall? Is it one invoice a month, or is
Oh
it,
no,
or is it
no, they're the aren't they
20,000
tax bills?
invoices?
The actual tax bills, but we do get an invoice a month. We've processed X amount of bills.
Right, but
They're charging us per taxpayer bill.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
We're
so
getting
is that
one invoice with all
For-
these on it, but yes, there's the multiple
Yeah.
tax bills for the 65 cents.
okay? So what does that end up being? I'm just curious. Is that like
I'm trying to think what our total fees were. We had done a study on that. I want to say it was maybe rough between 6,000 and 7,000 for the year, maybe. That was with the 130 and
Yeah.
55 and that. I want to say roughly.
Yeah. Now, I don't think it
But that was cheaper when we went to that, right?
Well,
Well, we went to the lockbox because we didn't want to collect the taxes ourselves.
Well, you're now
Right.
paying your tax collectors less than you were when
That's what
they
I'm
were
saying.
collecting them, so you had a savings
Did
there.
Birdsboro go to that now?
Yes.
July 1st.
Yes.
She,
Yeah, yeah. She can't get
You, yep,
bad health.
July 1st.
Yes, I know. Okay. But that's
Okay.
that's wrong.
Do any of the other banks that we have relationships with offer the Dropbox? And did they offer it for I don't know, cheaper rates
most
or better?
of them could not process the bills to update the tax system at the intermediate unit. That was what we were running into. Basically, when they process the tax bills, it also updates our tax system so that we're not going in with every bill and updating that it's been paid or whatever.
It's like a download.
It's
An
downloading
automatic.
right to it. That was the main reason to go with National Pen,
Yeah.
was because they were it. They were the only ones that really could deal with that. Otherwise, you were kind of defeating your purpose, because
Time spent updating
time
it is
spent
money.
updating
So-
all of that. Yes.
Is
yes.
it safe to say then that Berks County schools
For the most
all
part.
with National Pen for lockbox that have lockbox?
I think that, let me put it this way, any school that has the BCIU tax program is using
Okay.
National Pen.
Are
I'll do
there-
it that way.
Is there any way to find out if other financial institutions do business in this area? I.e. Fulton Bank or I don't know,
Well,
Metro or Susquehanna?
When
or-
we initially looked at
Yeah.
this, we wanted to have a bank that was within the district
Mhm.
that
They could pay in person.
Well, you're going to have to make some deposits, right?
they could pay in person. Well, it was more or less that they had the ability to
To
go
get in their
there
car.
on the last
Take
day.
their cash.
Yeah, take
Take
their
their
cash.
cash
Well,
and
apparently you
get
can't
their
pay with
receipt.
cash. If you read that article in the paper, some Pottstown guy couldn't pay in cash.
Why
You can only
not?
pay with a check.
Well, really,
Can hear.
yeah, I don't see why you can't.
There's some federal law against it now because of 9/11.
How
Oh,
much
maybe
is
a
it?
$1 limit. Maybe his tax bill.
Yeah, maybe it's
isn't
over
there a
$10,000.
limit?
It's over $2,500. You can't deposit. You can't pay in
I
cash.
thought it was over 10,000.
No.
Wow, I didn't know.
Because I know anything over 10,000, you can't.
But when we looked at all the variables, when we looked at,
Because I think Pottstown uses Wells Fargo,
Okay.
and that was the issue there.
and actually National Pen had another firm processing their payments for lockbox, and in order to keep the costs low for
Last
us
year.
last year, they decided to start processing internally. So we really did save, because we were like,
Yeah, he came to us with a new proposal of new fees, and I said, I can't do that. My budget's already set.
Yeah.
There's no way I can go to the board with another increase.
but of
And then-
all of the banks that were within our school district, they were the only ones that could accommodate
On-site
tax-
payment.
System.
our tax system. I know for a fact that Twin Valley uses,
Not Penn.
I'm pretty sure they do.
Governor Mifflin, too, maybe?
I think so. Yeah, there are large.
Well, I'm sure they're doing
most
it for
of the
lots of
schools.
different schools. I'm just
National
wondering,
Penn, aren't they the
as you
bank?
guys go through this list, we're going to have a bunch of things.
We're
And
the Bank of Boyardtown,
at the end of the
right?
day, if we change 2 or 3 and you end up saving 1,000 here, 1,000 there, it could be $5,000, it could be $10,000, it could be nothing. Maybe it's not worth the change. I don't know. I'm just asking,
will not-
how often do we take a
right.
look at this?
I think we did look at it again last year when National Pen came to us and said, we're going to increase your cost.
I know we called VIS to see if they had lockbox. They said no, and then I'm not sure who else we did. We didn't send out a full-blown RFP like we did for the
Right,
other
but we
services.
started asking other school districts, and
With VIS, they don't, but now VIS has been bought. They're merging. You might want to check. They did it with the Bank of New York.
Okay.
Sorry, name escapes me. I met with my banker today, and now it escapes me.
We can check, but I think
I
if
don't-
we're going to
but
try
I-
to make a change with that, we need to make it like this, I mean, not this year, but we need to make it now in order for everything to be in place for July 1.
I have a question. I'm sorry. I wonder if this bank, 15 cents for every direct deposit item? Is that out or going in? Like, you mean for paychecks?
Yeah.
They charge you 15 cents to deposit a person's paycheck?
What does that cost?
Oh my God. Well, there's 400 employees.
I'm trying to think what that amount
Multiply
was
that
on
by
It's bi-weekly.
26 pays a year.
Yeah. I think
Let's,
that's what
let's charge the employees. Seriously.
I can't-
Well, why should we pay that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. But no, first of all, that's a privilege. I mean, it's a what do you call it?
benefit to the
Benefit.
bank.
You don't have to do it. Get rid of it. Give them paychecks.
It's easier.
By the way, turn off that recorder. I don't want to
It's
get killed.
easier for the
And I got
management
neighbors
of
and
it
friends
to
in
be
it.
direct
Meeting hasn't
deposit.
I
adjourned.
got neighbors and friends in this thing. But no, seriously. You know, are you sure that? Go back and ask them that because they don't charge every
No,
customer.
it's on our invoice. I mean, we.
Yeah, but you need to go back and this and say that I'm not paying that. I don't pay it. And I have Vist. I have 100 employees. I don't pay 15 cents a deposit. If I do, I'll go back and check my thing. But I know I wouldn't have accepted their proposal a year and a half ago if I was going to pay 15 cents. Everyone, 95% of my employees are direct deposit.
This was what was in place, and then when I did the RFP again last year,
Well, that's probably why. But I think you can get rid of that. And again, it's not a
Okay.
lot of money. But like Andrew says,
No, that's fine.
15 cents times
It's about
400 times 20.
about $120 a month.
That's what we
Times
were just
12.
saying.
Yeah.
About 100
Times 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it's not
12,
a lot, but-
$1,500
and
bucks
some
a
of those
year.
wiring and stuff things, dude, you can get those, eat those.
Like I said, when we did the
You
RFP.
do a lot of them?
Well,
No. Well,
yeah,
no.
well, you're wiring into the payroll account from Liquid Assets so
Yeah.
that there's money there.
Wait,
I'm
why
trying
are
to
you
think.
wiring it in? Why don't you just do an ACH? Where's the money? Where the main bank money is? In National
Liquid
Pen?
Asset.
Liquid asset.
That's the PSDLAF fund,
PSDLAF. We're
So you gotta-
taking,
which is the
Charges us
Penn
no
State
fees.
liquid acid fund. So we get the best rates from them.
They don't charge us any fees.
they don't
Who's
charge
charging
Okay,
us
I
the
understand
fees?
that. So you
This
have
is
to-
charging us the fees to
Wait, how do you get the money into the payroll account? Through that.
Wire it or
But how
do
does it get to
ACH?
there?
to where?
How does it get into the PS whatever first?
She wires from National Pen, which there's no fee.
Why do you do that? Why don't you just go from National Pen right into there?
Into Vist.
Because
Yeah.
I like to go to Liquid Asset and get our money in there because that's where we do our investments
That's
from.
what.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Can't you cut a check from Penn whatever and walk up to this and deposit it? Write a
We
check
don't.
for $500,000 and walk it up. Somebody can go to deposit and clear it out 2 days ahead of time?
To save
He's
$10
saying
bucks?
It's to save the
I
wire
don't know how
fee.
many times
He's
they
saying
do
to
it.
cut a check out of accounts payable, I guess, which is Liquid Asset, and then take the check.
How
to
many
the bank
wires
and
do you do a
deposit
month?
it
How many
into the
wires in and
payroll
out do you do a
account.
month?
We just have never.
No, I have a question. Okay, how many wires do you do in and out a month?
It's going to vary. I
Roughly.
mean, I'm going to
Well, for
do
payroll,
for payroll. I'm
there's
gonna
2
do
or
2 a
3
month.
depending on.
Yeah, okay, but is that it?
Not.
I mean, if you're only doing, you know.
If I'm moving, most of the money I'm moving is from National Pen into Liquid Asset, and they're not charging us any fees.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
How
they're not
often-
charging us any
And
fees.
how often do you guys sweep in that money now? You weren't really sure last time I spoke.
Well, here's what we found out. Julie has been doing it. She does it weekly, or when she sees
When
there's a
I see
balance
that
in there.
we have deposits, I usually, after I do the deposits, especially now, I could do,
One a day.
or at least every other day.
So we had spoken to Andrew, and we said, yeah, that's true. Why can't we just get it to sweep? Why should she have to manually monitor that, and then why not just have something set up that it just sweeps a certain amount all the time? No problem with Liquid Asset to do the sweep. The problem lies at National Pen's level. They won't give the information out to them over the phone. The only way we can get Liquid Asset to be able to go in and do that for us manually is to give them access to online banking, which isn't an issue. But we don't have online banking, and National Pen wants to charge us $5 a month to have that.
Okay, but at the end of the day, if you're sweeping, especially this time of year, we collect $25 million worth of revenue. Every day that money's sitting at Nat Penn, we're not earning any interest on it whatsoever.
$5 a
We
month?
are some.
Or $5 a
I don't know
transaction?
what the interest rate is on that.
$5 a month, I think.
Oh,
she
that's
said.
$60. I'm like Andrew.
I'm okay with it, but I didn't just want to
I
implement
would
a
do that
$60
one.
charge without
No, I would
bringing
do
it
that
to
one.
you.
That one's
I mean,
Makes
that's
sense. I
how
agree
we
with
would like
Andrew.
to do it,
I
is
agree
to
with
do
Andrew.
that.
Do it.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking, you could be talking about thousands of dollars worth
Well,
of
I
interest.
would rather
Correct.
do it that, I would rather do it that way, that they have the ability to do
One
the
sweep
sweep.
alone.
It should be
It
it should be swept daily out
Well,
of the
and we
account.
can set that,
Yeah.
we
And
can
we
do
can
that.
set that
We can
up.
tell them
Yeah.
to do it daily and leave a balance of like 10,000 in there because we do sometimes have bounce checks. And of course, National Pen told me, well, you have to keep a balance of, I think, $500 or we charge you. So I said,
Do you keep a lot of money in Vist?
Invest,
Well,
no.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like at the end of the day, we ought to be talking to National Pen saying, "Wait, do you want our business or you don't want our business?
Yeah.
For $5 a month, you guys going to really charge us that, or
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
Like we need to start negotiating with them a little bit. We can easily go to Wells Fargo for direct deposits if you guys aren't going to work with us, or
So
you
Well,
don't have to
National
actually
Pen-
do it. But I'm just saying you can threaten them with it. All right?
but
And-
National Pen's a lockbox, so I don't really have much to threaten them with.
well, trust me, they're making money off of our
Absolutely. they are.
off of our funds
They can
sitting
show
in
it as
that
an
account.
asset.
Right.
And,
Trust me when I tell you, the longer that money sits in that
Yeah.
account, they're using it,
Correct.
Showing it as
and
an
they're
asset.
earning interest on it.
Here's the thing, is
And
if Vist keeps it for 24 hours and our payroll is big enough every 2 weeks, why should they be charging you for an incoming wire of $10?
they're making
They're making more
that.
than that in the next 30 minutes that they get your money.
Yeah, I mean, for every second the money sits in the
Yeah,
account,
I
they're
mean, that's
making money
ridiculous.
off
I
of
mean,
it. So
you know,
we ought to
who's
just
your
push
fist
back a
contact?
little bit with these with
Who's
the
your fist
banks.
contact?
Yeah, and just say, hey, look, you know what? We're shopping this thing around, and you know we
Correct.
feel like you guys are nickel and diming us on some of these services. These are things that we want to accomplish, and you guys can either work with us or we're going to go find somebody else to do the business
do
with.
you put it in like for payroll the night before or 2 days before? Like if payroll's on a Friday, do you put it in Wednesday?
I think you wire on a Wednesday.
I wire on a Wednesday.
For Friday.
most of
So
the
they're holding your
time.
money for 48 hours. Dude, that $10 is, you know, come on.
But we do that because we've already had issues with direct deposit.
Yeah, but that's not on the outgoing bank. That's always on the ingoing bank.
We have had issues with the processing, not recently.
Yeah, but see, that won't be
initially
the
we
outgoing
did with
bank.
this.
It's always the receiving banks
The
that screw it up.
receiving bank.
But see, that's because of stupid when holidays and stuff occur. But your employees are just going to have to live with it for 24 hours. So here's the deal: you're moving the money to a day early, so that you make sure the employees get it on Friday. But in reality, this bank's making out the money because they're holding the money for 24 hours. And I don't have a problem with that, but then they shouldn't charge you $10 ingoing fee. They shouldn't charge you any fee.
I mean, we can.
I'll call and
Especially since it's electronic.
We'll call. I'll call and we'll. I mean, all I
Let
can
me
do
know. I
is
know.
ask.
So the two banks we're dealing with really are NatPen and Vist, right? I mean, those are the only two that were really charging us fees for
M&T?
services.
Correct.
and-
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So the
Because
issue
the
is,
SBLAF does not.
do we shop around Vist and NatPen services to see what other banks and lending institutions are out there that can offer us the same or better services? And if we're not going to do that, do we go back and push back on Vist and NatPen on how we're doing business with them to A, reduce our costs further, or B, take a look at how we're doing things? But the timing of payment, especially when we're sitting with $20 or $30 million, is it's a lot of interest that we're abdicating to our lending partners. So the faster we get that money out of their hands and into our accounts where it's earning interest, the better. The shorter the time period between we put funds in their accounts before they disperse them is to our benefit, right? So we want to hang on to our money as long as possible because every dollar is going to earn us.
The only problem, Andrew, and I see this now is if you want to stay somewhat local, Wells Fargo I wouldn't touch. They're really bad right
Well,
now.
and that-
this is in transaction, and Sovereign's in transaction.
Well, look, every lending institution is
Yeah, I
going to
know,
some
but
sort of
that's the
transition.
problem. They're all that way. They're all not going to give you.
in the past, National Pen just
Yeah,
with not just
M&T.
one.
M&T we got rid of.
M&T we've used.
They're a little weird.
Yeah.
About First Niagara. The old Harley.
And again, we need to have a bank that's close enough because
Our courier has
our
to take
courier
the
has to
deposits.
take our deposits to the bank.
Correct.
Okay, well, I mean, look, there's a lot of lending institutions in Pottstown and everywhere. Yes, it's technically outside the district, but it's a 5-minute drive from
Try
here,
Niagara.
right? So there's lots of, I don't know who the lending institute, First Niagara, there's Fulton Bank, there's Wells Fargo, there's Credit Union. I don't know who else is out there, but let's get a list together and you guys can.
And I think we sent out to When we did
I
that
sent
RF
out to M&T, Sovereign, Vist, and National Pen. Sovereign never got back. Vist sent it back. M&T and National Pen were after the deadline, so I couldn't even accept
Crap.
their proposals.
Try Niagara. I don't know if the, I mean, it doesn't have to do it.
I don't think.
Who's across from Niagara now?
So I think, look, right now you guys can start
We
putting the
actually
list
even use
together,
Berks
because
County
whatever we're going to do, we're not
Bank
going to do
at
until
one
next year,
time.
That's
right?
gone now.
I know.
Right, and I know this
Okay.
is a priority,
Try
but with all
Affinity.
my other priorities,
No,
this
no,
is
no,
the
no,
lesser
no. I think
one.
at the end of the day, look, first things first.
I mean, we'll
If
call
we-
them tomorrow and try to push back on the fees at least now for this year to see
Sure.
if we can get
That's-
something done
right.
immediately.
So we want to make sure we're doing daily sweeps, so we get that in place. We also want to make sure that we're not getting charged unnecessarily on these, 15 cents here, 20 cents there, whatever, because, it could be $1,500 and then multiply that by
I
whatever.
mean, what we'll
other-
tell them tomorrow is, we want to try to, but we are going to be sending out an RFP later this year to shop our services
When are you going to be
for
doing
next
that?
year.
In February or March? When do you do that?
Get rid of direct deposit. You'll kill.
I'm just curious.
Whenever. I mean,
when do you
probably
have
the
to have it
sooner-
done by?
The sooner the better, because I don't know how long it takes to change. I've never been where we've changed banks, so I don't know the process.
If we're changing the depository bank, that will be mainly an issue
With the
with all the
people,
buildings, because all of the buildings basically are processing the deposits and sending them to the office for our approval.
Plus, then you got to worry if your checks
But
are
now
made
our
up in
payroll
reasonable
account, our
checks.
checks are actually drawn on this. So if we were to change an
Yes.
institution, we would need to make sure we have new checks and
Which
be able to
costs
do direct
money.
deposit and do all of that.
And there is a cost
So I
to all
would
that.
say, I mean, in reality, I think we would want to have a decision by at least, bring it to the board and have the board voting by, I would say at least March, because that would
Correct.
give us April, May, and June.
So that we could
That would give us
initiate-
And then
3
you'll give
months.
some of these buy sells with banks, they'll be done by then. This will be through theirs. Sovereign's going to be done with theirs. Affinity Bank was just sold or merged.
Where's Infinity?
Affinity's in, the closest one is,
so you're going to be doing RFP sometime in
missing?
January or something?
Well, no, I'll probably
December.
do it in
Oh,
February and
excellent.
ask for it to be back in March.
Target.
You don't really give them that much time, because the longer time you give them, the more time they drag their
Target's
feet,
something.
so you kind of make
I
it.
for-
Well, you can give them you have to have it by, I'm just thinking, because if you don't get a lot of response the first go around, you got to go back out again to other banks or whatever, then it doesn't give you enough time. And I'm not suggesting we make a change. I'm just suggesting in terms of what we're doing right now, push back a little bit and let's think about the timing of things. And in terms of, let's see what opportunities present themselves
Let's
for
say
next year.
I'll put it down to have it out in January, to have it back in February. If we don't get many responses, I can do it back out in
I think
February to have
that's-
it back in March.
I think that's about the time frame we did it. the
I did
last
it in
time.
February last time
I
for
thought so.
March, but if I back it up a month, then if I don't get responses, I can then try the following month. At least I give myself a little bit.
All right, so you guys are going to look at working on with NatPen to get the sweeps and reduce the fees, and VIST with the direct deposits. What are you suggesting, that we don't deposit?
no,
What?
no, you mean direct deposit on employees' paychecks? No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying I think this should not charge you for that.
Well, I will call them, and if I get resistance, I'll give you a call tomorrow.
Yeah, give me-
Yeah, let us know. I mean, at the end of the day, is that a cost that should be passed on the employees?
Again, I just think it's a ripoff. They get the money. They get the money a day or two early. They get to sit on it. The only thing
Okay.
they don't get is the people who do low cash paychecks. That doesn't sit in their account there, because that never happens, because it's direct deposit.
Any other business?
Not from the art department, I don't
Good
think.
job. Look at that, Andrew. 15 minutes of spare, buddy.
All right. Seeing none, we'll say this meeting is adjourned.
Meeting ends 8:45. Good night, everyone.